So if you're a caretaker, make sure that you're taking care of yourself because you're in it for the long term. And I mean, for some people, it will take years that you will be taking care of them.
You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author, professional speaker, and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe where they try to survive my questions that go on charcoal and propane grills and puns that come straight out of nowhere. Today's no different because we got another fabulous author in the house, because today's author has written over 50 business plans and helped entrepreneurs strategize over how to differentiate their companies in changing environments. And because of that, after helping other entrepreneurs start their companies, she decided to found her own business consulting practice called Performance Architect in 2012, when we lost Twinkies for a month and people thought the world was going to end. And not only that, in that year, she also co-founded Positive Business DC that same year. But in 2014, she had a setback known as a major stroke, and she applied those skills in planning and strategy. As she strived to become whole, she never gave up, and over time she learned to walk again. But she struggled with aphasia, a language disorder, but joined Toastmasters hoping to regain her speaking abilities. And it helped so much that she discovered a technological breakthrough that minimized her speaking disability. And she kept on going with that to become an area director after joining Toastmasters in 2017. And not only that, she also created Stroke Forward because she felt that there's a need to share hope to stroke survivors and their caretakers. So going down the pike, in addition to all of those accolades and being a part of the business of immortality, she lives with her husband, Jim, and two very loud cats, as well as two birds near Washington, D.C. So let's give it up for the one, the only Miss Eminem from Virginia herself, Miss Marcia Moran. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm doing very well, Dom. How are you?
Oh, doing fabulous and marvelous now that you're here. You definitely got to give Mr. Jordan Gross, Mr. JG himself, a shout out for connecting me with a fabulous human.
Yes, we do.
That's right. That's right. All the way from Virginia, so not too far from me.
No, not at all.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. It's probably only 2 hours away without DC traffic. DC traffic probably makes it 6 hours.
Unfortunately, I think that's true.
Oh, man. But for those who have been 6 hours away living under 2,000 rocks, mind filling in some cavities where I missed some things in the fillings and tell us a bit about who the fabulous Marcia is?
Yes. So before my stroke, I was the business writer and I had 50 plans under my belt. After my stroke, I couldn't find a job actually. So I decided to write a book. And I found some interesting things about myself along the way. First off, I didn't actually plan on publishing, but there were so many people out there that needed a bright of hope of light, I guess, that I decided I'd be foolish not to publish. So here I am.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, welcome to the Business of Immortality, book number 1 in the building. I'm sure there's going to be a book number 2 in the near future.
You think so?
Well, that's how it usually goes.
Yeah, my husband has been saying the same thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's right. Book number 2, indeed. And heck, probably even need an audiobook for the first one, too.
Actually, I do. Do you know of anybody?
Oh, what, a voice actor?
Yeah.
Heck, I could probably do it.
Huh. We'll see.
Yes, indeed. Probably best to do it on your own, because folks like to hear
That's
the author.
that's true.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, since overcoming that stroke and writing the books, what's probably been one of the biggest lessons you learned thus far since you released your book?
I think I've found that people are more generous than you think of them. So I have found that people give me the time to describe my experience, and they're kind every time they learn that I've had a stroke. So looking at me nowadays, you would never know that I had a stroke. And it kind of amazes people that I went through 3.5 years of aphasia, and they can't even tell that I had that now. So, but when they hear it, they stop and listen to what I have to say, because it's really important that people start to understand that aphasia can really take you down to the bare bones, where every time you speak, you feel like you're not heard.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And folks definitely do have to really listen to you when you tell them about aphasia, because that's something that's not really well known. Because I never heard of it until after reading your bio a few days ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's weird because I heard everything people had to say, and I had words in my head. And sometimes I had something to say, but the words I said were different from the words in my head, which is really weird, because it's like there are two people in your head going, ah. And what's really weird about that is I said that yesterday in a speech, and somebody came up to me and they said, I have four people in my head. It's like, okay. But there's just such a disconnect, and so you feel like you're becoming weaker and less of a person every time you try to speak, because the words just came out wrong. Um, so that's actually why I joined Toastmasters, because I figured I'd have to speak. And I did have to speak, and sometimes it was terrible because I couldn't. And sometimes it was actually okay because the words came out okay. I'm not going to say great, but they came out okay. And then 3.5 years after my stroke, I discovered neurofeedback. And suddenly I didn't have two voices in my head. I suddenly had the one voice, and I was able to communicate clearly what I was thinking. And that is such a blessing to me, because I managed to build my confidence back up, and I feel like I'm a real person now again.
That's right. That's right. Truly real. That's right. Not
Yeah.
pleather jacket real, the genuine article.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But congratulations, though, because now you're definitely sounding great.
Well, thank you very much. I tried really hard for a long time.
Yeah, and that's probably a testament to your resilience as well.
It's everything about resilience. So even though I felt discouraged sometimes, I never gave up. And when I try something that didn't work, I go, okay, well, I try something else. Okay, that didn't work either. So I try something else. And that was really the whole point of finding neurofeedback, because no one ever mentioned neurofeedback until I found out about it, believe it or not, from a chiropractor. And so here I was for 3.5 years. They've had the neurofeedback around for 15 years or more, and biofeedback before that. So I don't know why more people aren't talking about it.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. A lot of more folks do need to really talk about it because that's something that's really common. Heck, even fellow Toastmaster a while back, she had a stroke herself, and she was lucky that the folks in the hotel knew the signs of a stroke to be able to help her out as fast as they could have, because she could have been in a worse situation if she wasn't around anybody that could have helped her out.
Yeah. So I hope she's okay.
Oh yeah, she's okay now. That was like, wow, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Funny enough, she even made district after that too. So
She did.
yeah, yeah,
Good
made
for
it to
her.
district level. That's right. That's right. I believe she's episode 4 of this podcast too. Pearl Matibe.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't talk about it that much in that one, but yes, indeed, she's definitely a pearl.
I'll look at it.
Yep. And she is a mother, so mother of pearl. Let me stop.
Oh my God.
Yes, indeed. But definitely. You're trapped in the cornfield now.
Oh no. I can't find my way out. I can't find my way out. Am I running in circles now?
Don't worry, we don't do the crop circles, but that's for the aliens. We just do the corny jokes. No, we'll say the crop circles for the actual aliens out in the sky with the mothership.
Okay. That sounds good.
The mother of pearl ship, that is. Oh god. But in all seriousness, though, for those who don't know yet, what are some of the symptoms of folks who may be having a stroke?
So there's an acronym. So B is for balance. Do you have any balance? E is for eyes. Are you seeing clearly out of both of them, or are you losing vision on one side or both sides? F is for face. Is your face drooping? A is for arm, and that is also for your leg. Are they working succinctly? S is for speech. Are you slurring your words? And T is for time. It's time to call 911 if you're having any of those symptoms. And so it's be fast.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely got to be fast if those things aren't happening. It's like, oh shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually pretty scary when those things start happening to you or to a loved one.
Yeah, you're definitely right. 'Cause if I'm not mistaken, that happened to you when you're by yourself, right?
My husband was downstairs, so it was just a matter of getting to a place where he could find me. And I don't know how long it took to get to him because I was fully paralyzed on the right-hand side. So I had to drag myself on the carpet and then the hardwood to a place where he could find me. And I really don't know how long it took, but it took like a long time.
Yes, indeed. And goes back to that resilience again, still fighting your way, clawing your way to a place where it can be found a lot easier.
Well, the option was either to try to find help or to give up. I really felt that if I stayed in bed, I would probably not have lived.
And amen to that. That's right. And it's kind of amazing how that really happens where you really have no other options. It's either live or die, one of the two.
Yep. And it really made it put things into place for me. So before my stroke, I focused mostly on my work. After my stroke, I'm focused mostly on the people in my life. And I don't see that changing again.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Definitely don't want that to change. Definitely do not want that to change.
No.
And not to mention, if I'm not mistaken, let's see. So there's a lot of folks having strokes in America, and then and of course the great acronym that you shared, and the resilience. So what advice would you give to other folks out there who may have a relative or a friend who may have had a stroke? What would probably be your best advice to give to them for folks to avoid that in the near future?
Well, so if you're a caretaker, make sure that you're taking care of yourself because you're in it for the long term. And I mean, for some people, it will take years that you will be taking care of them. So make sure that you get enough sleep and you take some time away from your stroke survivor to settle yourself. If you are a stroke survivor, I would say just remember that you have to forgive people for doing something that might seem wrong for you. I also think you should also sleep as much as you need to. There's so many people that don't sleep much and they get out of sorts for that. And they go, I guess it seems like it kind of goes down from there. Be kind. I think that's really important. I guess for me, the most important thing is to exercise every day. That's the most important thing because exercising every day means that eventually you start moving again. You start thinking more clearly again, at least I did. You possibly will learn to talk again. I did, but it took a long, long time. If I'd given up my exercises, I'd just be in my house and not thinking about much, but maybe what's on the TV.
There you go. There you go. Solid tips right there. Definitely the be kind part is something that everybody needs reminders of, and the sleep
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. You know, it's so easy to think about just you when you're the one that had a stroke. And it's not just you. You have to look about around you and think about all the people who are taking care of you. And you have to remember that if you're not kind to them, they won't want to be near you. And when they don't want to be near you, then you don't get much help after a while. And then you get discouraged because nobody wants to be around you and you lose hope. I mean, I think it's the wrong way to look at things that way. If you look at the positive side, then people will want to be around you. They will want to make you better. And that will allow you to be more hopeful yourself as well.
Oh, yes, indeed. Got to keep that hope alive. That's right. Got to keep it alive and well with all the water. Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since this isn't your first podcast rodeo, is there a question that you wish you would be asked more often that a lot of interviewers haven't asked you yet?
Yes. So, what was the first thing we learned so Jim would become my advocate because he didn't know anything about advocacy at the start? And the first thing he learned to become my advocate is I fell off the toilet when I was in the hospital. And so
Oh, man.
he learned that the nurse needed to be with me at all times. And if she wouldn't be with me, then he needed to be with me. And he needed to understand everything they were going to do with me and for me from that point forward, because it could be my life that was on the line. And it actually would be. I choked when I was in the hospital. So there's a lot of things that you need to know about being in the hospital that it's better to know before you go in than after. That's why I wrote the book, actually, because for anyone who finds that they're in the hospital, if they read the book, at least they have an understanding of the minor things that they need to do in order to keep their loved one alive.
Solid advice right there. Solid advice right there, especially with the hospital piece, because a lot of times, and no matter how sick someone is, like the nurses, not some of them can be a little lackadaisical in moments like that. It's like,
Right.
oh my goodness, you got to make sure you have the right people around you, especially if your husband Jim is very dedicated, and it's great that he was as dedicated as he was to making sure that you're getting the best of care and being there himself too.
Yeah. But you also have to realize that they've probably got too much for the nurses to do. And when that happens, they're just juggling so many balls at once. Something's going to go wrong. And sometimes the wrong thing happens to the patient. And I don't necessarily think it's the nurse's fault. They have just more than they can do, and the husband needs to be, or the spouse needs to be involved. And I think they need to make more contact with patients and their spouses and their loved ones. So we're not on the side. A lot of times when you're in the hospital, you are talked to, but they don't talk to you in a way that you understand. And oftentimes they leave before you can fully understand what your options are. I think that's a mistake. I think they need to bring you more fully into the loop.
Yes, indeed. Amen to that, indeed. And that's so true because a lot of times, especially if folks didn't get that forewarning about strokes, for those who haven't picked up the book yet and probably should, then they'll be at a disadvantage. And just having that information, being more informed about
Hmm.
what's going on will definitely help out.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And also the fact that the nurses themselves, I mean, probably have too much on their plate with the 12-hour shifts and so
Hmm.
many people on one floor that you can only do so much. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Right. That's exactly it.
Well, definitely dropping some fabulous tips right there. Definitely dropping some fabulous tips right there. And glad that you're on that mission to help out others.
Yep.
Those folks are going to need it. They're going
Yep.
to be needing it with at least 10 E's.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am, indeed. Well, all righty. So, coming down to the question that every guest gets to answer, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you are 25 again, but this time with all of your amassed knowledge and experience in the year of 2020, what advice would you give to yourself?
I think I would become someone who works in the healthcare field. I really like the physical therapists and the occupational therapists. And I suppose that's because I've had a stroke, but they are so nice to me. And I feel like they're not given enough leadership in their roles. So I think I'd be an occupational therapist, and I'd hope to have more leadership.
Alrighty, a career change. There we go.
Or career change, of course, yeah.
Yeah. One of the few, if not only, times that someone actually changed their career if they were back in 25. So that's a new perspective. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it right there indeed. It's like, nah, do a whole career change, like be an occupational therapist. Because he did so well with me, want to share that love with others.
That's right. I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Oh, yes, indeed. So for those who want to be thinking more positive thoughts and pick up your fabulous book and keep up with all that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
They can reach out to www.strokeforward.com. Strokeforward.com.
Sweet. Well, there you have it, folks. Head over to that strokeforward.com. Check out all the wonderful things that Marcia's doing to inform others of what to do and what not to do when it comes to strokes from both perspectives, and also hear and listen to her story on some of her other shows that she's been on as well. Yes, indeed. Support the cause. Support the cause indeed. Because yours truly is definitely buying a copy of the book after this interview and hoping to get it into some of these libraries soon as well. So definitely add that to your library. So, any parting words for the folks still listening, Marcia?
Just remember that you should never give up. That's my message.
How's it going, you showstopper? It's great that you enjoyed this episode of the Going North podcast. If you really enjoyed it, be sure to shoot the guest an email or head over to the social media pages and leave them a nice response that you heard them on the Going North podcast, so that way they can continue to be inspired to do great things. And be sure to share this podcast with others that you think would enjoy it as well.